Unrest in France made headlines for close to a week. In a matter of days, the world witnessed the anger which the French people held against the authorities. Our first report on the show today delves deeper into the anti-police and anti-government riots in France. What really made the French furious? Here's a report.
This is what happens when equality before law holds true only on paper. When minorities feel law enforcers are unduly harsh on them for long, while other groups sympathize with them, scenes like these become a matter of when and not if. France has been on the boil for days now. Violent protests erupted last week across the country after 17-year-old Nahel Merzouk was killed by a police officer. The teenager of North African origin was shot after being pulled over at a traffic stop. The incident was captured on camera. Things were calmer in France on Sunday. The Ministry of Interior said only 157 people were detained overnight, a much lesser number compared to that recorded last week.
Very glad it is calming down. And at the same time, I'm not very happy about everything we've been through. Because there are people we don't know how they managed to get their car, their store, set up their store, maybe also took loans for what they had. And then all it takes is one night of trouble. And they've lost everything. It's not their fault. Everything that happened.
Charges of homicide have been pressed against the police officer for now, and a formal investigation is underway. The officer has also asked Nahel's family for forgiveness. But visuals that have been coming out of France since the past few days show the French people are not ready to forgive the police. This is because people allege that law enforcers in France are racist. They feel the race of a person decides the likeliness of being stopped by the police. Young men of African and Arab origin across France complain of persistent police abuses, ranging from racial profiling and harassment to assault and shootings in the working-class banlieues. The banlieues, or suburbs, are where many of France's minorities live. The French government has denied the charges that its police is racist. But how believable is that, given the brutality by men in uniform? A string of videos have emerged highlighting police brutality against minorities. People have woken up to police abuses which are now out in the open. This has only worsened the already precarious situation in France. But will all this lead to a systemic change in the way law is enforced? It remains to be seen.
As Minister of the Interior, I'm concerned that a third of the 3,200 people we arrest are minors and that the average age of the people we arrest is 17. Of these 3,200, 60% have no criminal record and are not known to the police, and they are not all repeat offenders. So that's something we need to be concerned about.
Amid another wave of violent protests in less than 4 months, questions are also being raised against the French government under President Emmanuel Macron. Unrest that lasted several weeks had broken out in France earlier this year too. That one was over pension reform. With another wave of protests on a similar scale has now led many to ask, what is Macron doing wrong? Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Elijah J. Magnia is a war correspondent and also an analyst. He is joining us live from Paris. Elijah, welcome to the program. President Emmanuel Macron has asked the Interior Ministry to keep a massive police presence on the streets, whereas the mayors of several cities are calling for rallies over the destruction and even looting that occurred. What's that all about? What's happening in France?
Thank you for having me. The problem of the banlieue, that suburbs, exists since 1980. It is not new, and every single president is postponing the problem and passing on to the next president. Now, the problem also is in the system where powerful people like the mayor of big cities, like in Marseille, in Paris, in Lyon, in Nantes, they have the obligation to, for every building they construct, to allow 20% of these flats to be given to the social people who have less money. So they have to sell it at the cost price. What the mayors have been doing, including Sarkozy, who became later president, is to pay the fine and not allow people with less money to be present in their province or in their neighborhood.
Right.
This is allow a selective number of population and push all those with less means of a certain background, social background, to be pushed toward the banlieue, the suburb. And now this is how the government has created a kind of ghetto where they excluded all those who carrying in the French nationality and have the right as everybody else to exist in this country that calls for liberty, freedom, and equality,
right.
And fraternity among each other, and is not applying these rules, is not applying the EU rules, is not applying the EU values on its own citizens. This is where we need to start again. And unfortunately, what happened is giving more support to the extreme right wing to have more power and have more people supporting them, because unfortunately, the French here in France, people are racist, not only the police.
All right, Elijah, many critics are asking, could there be anything else other than dissatisfaction with the police or French government that could be stoking anger and so much fury from the French?
Well, first of all, they have to teach the police not to lie. And the first confession of the two policemen, they said that they were almost run over and there was a direct threat to their life, sorry. And unfortunately for them, the video that came out showed that they were in a perfect position to be in control and that deliberately committed a homicide. So by allowing the police to do whatever they want, by the syndicate to come out and support the police and say, we are at war. At war with whom? With your own population? I mean, the police should respond to the Interior Ministry and to the Prime Minister and to the President. You can't declare war as a police syndicate and say we are at war with a citizen. So the police needs to be controlled and be given the right to interfere, but not with lethal weapons, because people don't carry weapons here.
Elijah, finally and in brief, President Macron will meet the mayors of 220 municipal areas that have been affected by this violence. What do these riots mean for the president's future as a leader?
There's no future, because according to the constitution, he's not allowed to run for a third term. So this is why he's taking very unpopular decisions. He's not trying to shorten the gap between the population and his decision on so many levels. This is why he can allow himself to do whatever he wants or whatever he sees fit, even if he is seriously committing grave mistakes toward the population and toward the foreign policy of France in our entourage here in Europe and also in international relationship.
War correspondent and also analyst Elijah J. Magnier. Elijah, thank you very much for talking to WION World is One today.
Sure. My pleasure.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.